Welcome to Cooper Talk. I'm your host, Steve Cooper, and remember, I'm only as hip as my guest. And I'll tell you, I didn't play my music today because I had a little technical difficulty, but it's all good. But people, just so you know, you're going to be happy. I've kept my word. After the last debate, I said, because, you know, I tweet the hell out of these debates, I said I am not going to social media any of the candidates' names, articles, or anything about them until the next debate. Now, we're recording on Tuesday. The debate is tomorrow, and I've been good. So, and once again, after that, I plan to do it the same way. I'll do it the day after the debate, but I think I might let it run till election night. I think maybe a week before, because I can't handle the arguments on the page. I can't handle stuff like that. But enough of that. We have a great show, and I happened to see my guest on Law and Order SVU last week. It's one of Joanne's favorite shows, and I was on, and I said, I got to get her as a guest. And my guest is Paula Marshall. How you doing?
Oh my, I'm so good. I know of what you speak with the social media and the posting. I've gotten into so many arguments with like my old high school friends that for some reason think Trump should be president. I can't even begin to tell you. So because I went a little crazy with the first debate. I commented on every inhale, every sniff. And then for the second one, I thought, I'm not going to do anything. I can't go there. So I waited. I think I was watching football, which is really much more important. And then I fell right back into it, and then I started. I was like on a roll. I'm like a crackhead when it comes to the debates and commenting on them. So anyway, I know what you speak.
I just write jokes. That's the funny thing. And people, though, still, I just tweet jokes, and I tweet both. I mean, even the vice presidential debate, I was just going off on both. And it's so funny how people then, they morph into like some monster where they yell at you, and then it's worse than that. Because my Twitter goes straight to my Facebook, they start like yelling at my friends, and I'm thinking, oh my God, you guys, you don't know. I mean, and my one friend's out of control, and he's saying all this stuff, and it's like, and no one knows facts, no one talks, and it drives me crazy. And now I read your brother's a politician, right?
Oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed to say this. Yeah, he lives in Virginia. He's a Republican. I don't even know how he came out of my mother. He went to Catholic school. Maybe that was it. I don't know, because my parents, especially my mom, was a crazy Democrat. And I have, too, become a crazy Democrat. And my daughter sits there and watches me yell at the television. And it's a lot. It's a big thing in our household.
So now oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, so Bobby, he's a House of Delegates representative in Virginia, and I remember when they had the first debate. Remember when there were like 20 of them on the stage, the Republican debate?
Yes.
I literally would text him. I'm like, all right, who are you going to vote for? Well, I'm still thinking it over. I'm like, no, you got to know. I think at this point, there might have been just a few left. I constantly, text him and email him just to egg him on. Why I did this, I don't know. I just can't help it because I want to know, because my brother's a good guy. Everything he believes is completely opposite of what I believe. But he's a good guy, deep down. But if he votes for Trump, and I hate to be this person, I'm not sure I can look him in the face. I'm like, then you're choosing the party over your country, over what you know is right and decent. And I don't know that I could forgive him. I am that nuts about this. Anyone else, if this was John Kasich or Rubio or Chris Christie, for God's sakes, Ted Cruz even, I would even be like, I respect your opinion. We don't see eye to eye, but I would never call their supporters what I've been calling Trump supporters. I just wouldn't. I am dumbfounded every morning when I wake up that I think it's a bad dream. Okay.
That's it.
I got that out. That felt really good.
That's good. That's good because my girlfriend really Joanne said that. She said, I used to joke around just to piss her off in the beginning, and my friend would crack up. We'd be out watching, or we'd be at a bar, meet my friend, and I always go, Trump, just to piss her off, because she hates him that much. And then she told me, she goes, if you voted for Trump and I found out, I would break up with you. And I said, well, then I said, you know what? You better be in my good graces on Election Day. No, I would.
It just, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I think about if you are married to a Republican and you're a Democrat or vice versa, I think it'd be really hard. I mean, especially the 3 months before the thing. I don't know if anyone's getting any.
That's crazy.
Really. So how could you? How could you turn the lights back on and they're like, oh my God, you support that? Anyway, it would be hard for me.
It's funny. So okay, so now you grew up in Maryland, I believe.
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Where are you from? I hear an accent.
I grew up in a town called Cherry Hill, New Jersey.
Oh, Cherry Hill, of course.
10 minutes from
of
Philadelphia.
Course.
Big Eagles fan. I don't know. You said you like football. Who's your team?
I do like football. Well, I'm a Cowboys fan.
God, interview's over. But you guys look great.
Well, when was the last time that happened? Tony
know.
who? I'm so sorry for Tony, but yikes, Dak. I mean, wow. I'm so excited, and I don't know what Jerry Jones is going to do. I feel like, he's been so loyal to Tony Romo over the years, and I totally respect that. But at some point, like Jim Irsay did, you got to let Peyton go, and you hire Andrew Luck. Now, again, Peyton won a Super Bowl after he left. That's impressive. I root for the old guys now. So it'll be interesting to see what he does when Tony, if he's back, if does his doctor say he's healthy enough to play. It'll be really interesting.
And the Eagles play the Cowboys on my birthday.
When are we playing?
We play on my birthday a week from this Sunday, October 30th. It's a night game, and I remember it's a Sunday night game, and I remember 5 years ago the Eagles played the Cowboys on my birthday, and it was a night game, and the Eagles won big, and I ended up drinking a lot of tequila because people bought me shots for my birthday and for the win. So anyway.
Oh, wow. So that's a nice memory.
How'd you become a Cowboys fan growing up in Maryland?
I know, Maryland. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, here it is. In a nutshell, my mom, again, my dad he liked sports, he liked politics, but not as much as my mom did. Betty Marshall was a crazy Cowboy fan. Why? Because Tom Landry wore a very nice suit and a hat to every game, and she thought he was such a good, Catholic, representative of football. She also had a crush on Roger Staubach. And I find myself crushing on different players in the league, and I will kind of follow those players. I was a huge Kurt Warner fan because he was, that between the arm and that great haircut and that face, how can you not love him? So I kind of follow people, but I growing up, watching my mom, just kind of loving the Cowboys, and of course, they were so good back then. They were, quote unquote, America's team. It was a great time to be a Cowboy fan. Now, we would piss off all of our Redskin neighbors. We just kind of went a little nuts. Again, we had a kind of crazy household. I'm thinking we would shoot off fireworks when the Cowboys would beat the Redskins, and our neighbors weren't so happy. But it was all in good fun, I guess. I don't know.
Well, okay. Well, though you were a Cowboys fan.
Yeah, it's just because of my mom, basically. Because my mom grew up, and I just, I followed them. I don't think it was the cool girls, the cheerleaders' outfits. I wasn't that. I really liked the game. I liked Tony Dorsett and Tutel Jones, and I had just, I don't know. It's a great game. It's like an amazing sport to watch. No other sport does what football does to me. I'm crazy about it.
You should meet my girlfriend. In fact, for her first Christmas together a few years ago, I had to find her a pink jersey. She wanted a pink jersey, and I didn't want to get Michael Vick because she is a dog owner, and I didn't want to get the one cornerback, Asmoga, because he stunk. So I had to try to get her the Deshaun Jackson jersey, and I swear to God, and she's extra small. So that doesn't help.
Yeah.
And I had to scour the internet, and I finally, in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, I found someone who had an Eagles jersey with Deshaun Jackson. So it'll work.
Aww.
So
that's nice. Well, they have. I think Alyssa Milano is an actress who likes football, and she created this whole line of NFL, clothes that chicks can wear. We don't, it's a little nicer on the body. So you should check that out.
Okay, so you grew up in Maryland. Now, at what point, when did you want to get involved in acting? Your mom seems like she was a very fun lady, and was she one of the driving forces for you getting into acting, or did it become later in your age?
Not at all. My parents were pretty simple people. They were afraid of that idea. They were not creative people, hardworking people, but did it happen? I met this woman in a mall. I think it was Montgomery Mall at the time, and her name was Jan Stevens, and she owned a modeling agency. And I was always interested in photography, and she approached me, and she asked if I would ever be interested in modeling. I'm like, well, it's kind of, has something to do with photography, so maybe, I don't know. I went down, I met her, I started working locally, I started doing commercials, and her partner, Jay Sumner, who worked at the agency with her, used to work with a manager in New York, an acting manager called Davian Littlefield. And she kind of took me under her wing and said, look, I think you have something. Modeling is, I'm only 5'7.5", and not that I wanted to be a model, that wasn't like my dream. But acting, it just kind of, it caught me off guard, and I didn't know anybody. I didn't have any connections except Jay, who told me about this woman in New York, Davian Littlefield. I went to New York with $400 maybe with some girlfriends to meet agents up there. So I ended up moving to New York after I graduated high school, and I think I had like $2,000 in my pocket, and that was it, and some coupons my mom gave me. And I remember my mom literally, she's like, just don't become a prostitute. Yeah. I'm like, I'll try not to, Mom. She, it's a big, bad city. She was from Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and moving to New York City, her baby, I can't even imagine my daughter now doing that. I can't. So I guess, what are you going to do? I was 18, and I had a strong will, and I went and studied acting. And the next thing I knew, I got an agent out of here in California, and I kept coming back and forth and decided to move to LA and, do this for a living. And it's been very good to me.
You've worked so steadily. What was your first big break? Was it when you were on Life Goes On? Or, because you had some recurring, I saw on Life Goes On and Wonder Years. How did you lead up to getting those parts? Was it just something did it happen quick? Because, when you look at IMDb, you can never tell by the years always what's happening. But yeah. When did you...
What happened? Basically, I came out here for pilot season. I don't even remember what year it was. I booked my first pilot called The Flash. It was Amanda Pays, John Wesley Shipp, and it was one of the most expensive pilots ever made. My character did not go on to the series, but it was my first... it was like my first big gig. I got a lot of money for like 10 days work. So my agents really started believing me after that. I would say that was kind of the big moment. Before that, I worked on a soap opera, like being a waitress and a babysitter. Really, I didn't do much. I didn't say much. That was kind of the door that opened to, being an actor, the actor's life. The daytime television is rough, though, because there's not much rehearsal. You never go on location, very rarely. It's a lot of dialogue, a lot of pages per day. It's a grind, and it's kind of tedious, and it's not as exciting as, let's say, a sitcom, which I fell in love with really quickly after I did an episode on Seinfeld. I was like, what is this? And there's an audience, and they're laughing, and that was one of the greatest highs I've ever had in my life. And ever since then, my goal, my dream is to just be on a sitcom. So when Gary and Married was canceled, damn, that broke my heart, because the writers were so great, and it was a great character. So that's really what I'm trying to get back to, mostly because I love it, but also because I'm a mom, and I love my kid more than I do being a celebrity or money, and I want to be here. I don't want to work in Vancouver, and I don't want to work in Atlanta. So my goal is to get back on, a sitcom doing a 4-camera show. But anyway, I know I've kind of rambled on.
That's fine. But, that's what I love. It makes my job easy.
My first pilot, then that kind of led to other auditions. One thing leads to another. One casting director books you in this, and then the next time you do that, it's just, you go on the audition and you get the job. You're either you're better or you're more right for the part than the other girl. It's not like I knew anyone. It's not like I did anything, or one role, someone saw it and it was like, yes, you must be our girl in the Wonder Years. It doesn't work like that. You just go in, you read, and you're the best one, and you're available. And that's how it happens most of the time.
Now, the Seinfeld, which, I'm a huge Seinfeld fan, and I've had, a bunch of the writers on it, Peter Melman on and all those guys. And
me too. I love it.
I love the show. And your episode was just on a few weeks ago, actually, because me and my girlfriend watch it at dinner sometimes. Did you ever think that show, I mean, so many people, I always classify, I have a friend who's from England who's my age, I'm 52, and he's never seen Seinfeld, and I want to punch him just because who hasn't seen Seinfeld? But did you ever think that one episode would still be around, and not that there's anything wrong with that, like your episode was such like one of those episodes so many people remember. Did you ever think when you went in to record a sitcom and you were a guest star, did you ever think that it would just last this long? And does it just amaze you when you sit there and people still make references to that show? It's
unbelievable. I'll never forget reading for it. It was in maybe at Warner Brothers. Jerry was in the room with me. I think Stephen O'Neill was there, who was the casting director, but I could be so wrong about that. Most of the times when the stars of the show, they don't sit in on auditions of the lowly guest star. They rarely do that. And Jerry was in there, so I was a little nervous. And again, this was, I think, maybe the third or the fourth season I worked on. This was not a big show yet. I think it took a couple of years, to the credit of Warren Littlefield, keeping it on the air, because now no network gives any shows a chance. If you don't have 12 million viewers within the first 3 weeks of your new show going in there, they pull you. So I have a lot of respect for Warren to know that it was funny and to keep it on the air even though the audience was not there yet. And again, it was a different time. I understand that. But I was just trying to not crack up. That was a big goal on that sitcom. And it was I think my first sitcom. I didn't know what Hold for the Laugh meant. So I remember we were doing a scene and Jason Alexander, I think it was like the coffee shop when I was kind of listening. I'm not sure exactly when, but the director said to me, "Hey, Paula, don't forget to hold for the laugh." I'm like, "Oh, sure, sorry, my bad." And then I looked at him and I'm like, "What does that mean?" Like, in acting class, no one ever told me that.
Right.
I don't know why, because it's kind of important when you do a sitcom. It means people are going to laugh. The audience is going to be there, and when you're rehearsing, there's writers, but you got to ride the wave of the laughter and then jump back in like seamlessly, like you're not holding for the laugh. And so I remember when he told me that, and I was so embarrassed, and just the week working with him. And then I remember I got a rewrite, and it said in the rewrite, some writer walked by and it's like, "Paula, hey, did you get the rewrite?" And I go, "Yeah, I know. I have to kiss Jerry Seinfeld." I was a little nervous about that because Jerry he's a stand-up. He wasn't really an actor, so he wasn't really used to, kissing girls. So he was really kind of nervous. So I kissed Jerry Seinfeld. I was in one of the show, I think, was it Henry Winkler, came up to me and was like, "Hey, not that there's anything wrong with that. It's funny, like the weird people that come up to me and quote that famous show." And by the way, I never said that. Everyone else said that around me, but I never did. I think I was the only one on the show who didn't say, "Not that there's anything wrong with it." Oh, I also have a great story. And by the way, yes, I did just drink a Coke. So I'm in Beverly Hills at the Nike store. It has to do with Jerry. I'm driving. I'm in Nike store getting some tennis shoes. I see Jerry Seinfeld. He's up paying for like 5 pairs of shoes. And I walk up to him and I'm like, I don't even know if he's going to remember me. I said, "Jerry, you can probably call your publicist and get this shit for free." And he looks at me and he goes, "Lois Lane," which was what he called me in the episode. He goes, "You remind me of Lois Lane." And then he kisses me. And he goes, "Hey, Paula, how are you?" I'm like, "I'm good. How are you, Jerry?" Jerry Seinfeld remembered my name after I don't know how many years. And guys like that just don't, I don't know. I was just impressed with him. It was an all-around great experience. How about that?
Well, see, I know I remember his name because I did stand-up comedy from 88 to 95, and we have that, we have like that idiot savant memory. Like we remember everything of people we've met or done shows with or cast members of TV shows, but then
Really?
we can't remember last week. Like we just remember because it's for us, it's a working relationship, and you guys were on for a week together, and you gain trust. And comics, we're not the most trustworthy people, so when you get someone you trust, you remember them, and that's so cool. And you're right, he could have got the sneakers for free. I heard he's a Nike junkie.
Yeah, I mean, he could have gotten the sneakers for free. All he had to do was call and say, hey, give me some sneakers. Yeah, he's so cool. And Jason, too, I ran into him at a sushi restaurant out on Beverly, and he walked out, and he said, Paula Marshall, how are you? Like, it's just me. I'm just little Paula Marshall from your show, and he totally remembered me. Maybe I have a really bad memory, and, I should have been a stand-up because maybe it would have helped my memory because I'm terrible at it. Anyway, I'm impressed with them.
So after Seinfeld, you started doing a run of a lot of series, like Wild Oats.
I did.
That was a sitcom?
Yeah, Wild Oats was a sitcom. Yeah, it was. I would say that was my first kind of lead part in a sitcom. It was for Fox. It was Jana Marie Hupp, Paul Rudd, and Tim Conlon. And we worked on the Fox lot. I was so excited about it. There was also another show that was like a new show, new pilot at the same time called Friends, and they hit and we didn't. It was like 6 friends, and our show is 4 friends, so I guess we were minus 2 friends, and that was the difference. It was really fun to work on, and I remember Paul Rudd really he was a really nice guy, but he really didn't like doing television. He's like, I just want to be a movie star. I'm like, yeah, get in line. and what's funny is all I really ever wanted to be was on TV. I didn't care much about the movies. But it's so nice to see him and, doing what he loves. And it's interesting when you start and you see someone follow through, and now he made it exactly where that was his goal, and he made it, and it's nice to see. But yeah, that was Wild Oats, and that was I guess my first sitcom. I should look up myself on IMDb to.
You have a very impressive IMDb. I always look at I had someone and this is bad. I'm not a snob when it comes to my guests, but someone I deal with publicists sometimes, and they're like, oh, well, how about this guy? And if they have less than 25 IMDb credits, I'm like, nah, and I'm just like, sorry. and that's not just because it's nothing against them. I'm sure they're great, but I got to talk to them about something. So I got to ask. I always ask, that was your first, like you said, that was like your first sitcom. Now, what does your mind go through when it gets canceled? Because it's such an exciting thing, and what are you thinking? Because you're young, you've had success. It's not like you haven't been a working actor, But when that first thing gets canceled, do you feel really depressed, or does it make you more aggressive, where you're going, it was a good thing, they're wrong? How did you react that first time?
It was pretty much a drag. What happens when they cancel a show, it's taken away from you so quickly that you hardly have time to mourn it. I just remember one day going, okay, well, that's it. Pack up your dressing room. It's over. What? I'm sorry, huh? Same thing happened with Cupid. It was just so quickly, over. We're looking at the numbers. I got it. The time slot is very important, and it was a little. It was shocking, but I guess when you're young and you book a lot, and I was both of those things. You thought, oh well, I'll get the next one. You rarely think I'll never work again. That's once she hits 40, maybe you start going, ooh, that was probably the last show I'll ever do. Because actors, the cliche is you always say, oh my God, I'm afraid I'll never work again. It sucks. It's sad, but I think that one, it was my first taste of it. So I felt lucky to have experienced it, and that show also gave me the drive to get back on another sitcom, because I loved it. Not only do I love the hours, and I didn't have any kids then, but I love the routine of it, the rehearsal process. I loved the performance in front of the audience. Like I said, it's a high that you know how it feels when someone laughs at you. It's so great. So it's something that I miss right now. I really miss that. So, yeah, getting canceled sucks. I've been through it way too many times.
Now,
everybody knows that.
What does it feel like? Also, like I looked at the cast for Chicago and Sons. It was such a killer cast. Doesn't that get like? And I've talked to so many people that they've said the cast of a show they've been on, and you hear the cast, and like I know someone, I forget who it was. He said his father was Harvey Korman, his mother was Cloris Leachman. And you're thinking, what a killer cast. And it didn't last. Chicago and Sons, you had Jason Bateman, you had D.W. Moffat, you had Krumholtz. What goes through your mind, and you, don't forget you, and what goes through your mind when that, like what happens with that? That just must suck.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Jason Bateman, he's a comic genius. I can't tell you how amazing and subtle, I mean, we all know it. He's always been good, but I remember working with him on that show. It was the little tiny moments that I saw that, sometimes sitcoms, people go, oh, you're so big and so fake. Oh, no. It was just kind of confusing. Like, how many viewers it's all about numbers. If that show would have been on a different network, then we probably would have still been on the air. I go through this a lot. With Gary Unmarried, I think we got 7 to 8 million viewers, something like that. Well, it wasn't enough. If that was on NBC at the time instead of CBS, we probably would have run like 30 Rock. 30 Rock, I think, had 2 to 3 million viewers at its height. So I'm like, well, what do I have to do? I don't take it personally. How could I? I don't write it. I don't direct it. It's just a drag when you think something is good and people say it's good, and yet, America, not enough of America is watching. Again, it's changed a little bit since, DVR. You can record things, you can watch things online, on Netflix. Everything is a little different right now, so I don't know how much the numbers really, much they take it into account. I'm sure they still have to, because I don't know how else they figure out what's a hit or not. But yeah, with that talent, it doesn't always mean that it's going to last. There's plenty of shows. I mean, look at George Clooney. I think he did more pilots than I did. We're very close with like who did more pilots that failed, me or George. So it doesn't really mean anything. It means we're both good enough to keep getting hired and keep working. But for some reason, magic doesn't always strike, and sometimes I think it is magic that keeps the show on the air. Like either the chemistry, but then why it was canceled, Cupid canceled. Jeremy and I, there was magic there. Again, it's the numbers. It has to be numbers equals, chemistry equals the crew, the cast and the crew, and then, it all melds together. It just sucks. It sucks.
Well, and there's also you, but for you, you've had so many, you're involved in Spin City and Sports Night. I mean, that's when you look back, you must sit there and go, wow. I mean, Spin City was a great show. Sports Night, you work with Aaron Sorkin, and it's just like the people you work with. I mean, as an actor, that must, really bring up your A game, because you guys are all A game talented actors, and when you work with people at that level, it just must make you strive to always do better.
Aaron Sorkin, oh my gosh, when I got that job, and I was kind of shocked because I was playing a porn star, and I was like, Aaron, I have like a 34B. Okay, fine, I'm not going to question it. But I didn't look anything like a porn star. Like, he so went against type. I remember just the words were so great. I'm a huge Aaron Sorkin fan. And it was Melina and I, when we were doing the scene, there was that, I felt magic. I felt the magic when I was acting with him like I did Jeremy Piven. There was something in the words and in the writing. Rob Thomas, who wrote Cupid, had that same kind of, flair for the word. Different, of course, but there was like a magic. Spin City, I love those guys. And when I love Michael J., he me. It was like my first episode. I went, and I think I did, I don't know, like 8 or something in the second season. It was my first scene. We were walking through the corridor in front of the audience. We do it, take 2. I walk back with him, and he says to me, and I'll never forget this, he goes, Marshall, you just held a candle to me out there. Is that what he said? You just held a candle to me out there, and that's not easy. Not many people do that, and so way to go. Wait, hang on. Not many people hold a candle to me out there, and you just did it. Something like that. I've had too much Coke. Coca-Cola. And so, like, those moments that Michael J. Fox, who's such a genius as far as, comedy goes, and he just gave me this huge compliment. Yeah, man. What a great career I've had, that I've had the opportunity to work with so many different people and play so many different parts. I mean, yeah, it sucks that I haven't had that huge hit that will, I'll keep my daughter in a great private school for long. That's my goal now. Just keep her in a good school. Just keep her safe and healthy and studying in a safe environment. But I have had the opportunity to work with so many different people, so there's that. So you got to look at, it's half full, my life.
And you met your husband on set. How did that happen?
I
and did you
did.
think
Danny
you'd
and
get married?
We met on a film that we did called That Old Feeling, and it was with Bette Midler, and Dennis Farina played my parents. And hang on, and we filmed this movie in Vancouver, New York. A couple years later, we are both cast in the David Kelly TV show called Snoops. His first bomb, by the way, which was awesome for me. It was coming off of Cupid. I remember I was still in love with Cupid and the writers and my character, and then they called. They were like, "Hey, we've got this new show, this David Kelly show. It's called Snoops." And I read the script, and I just didn't love it. I was kind of hot right now. I don't want to do it unless I love it. And they said, "But Rob Thomas is going to be the head writer." I was like, "Oh, well, that's weird. That maybe it's just meant to be." So I go, and then they tell me Danny Nucci's going to do it. I'm like, Danny Nucci, damn! I had a crush on Danny Nucci. This could be okay. That's how we got together. I asked him out on the date, but I met him on a film, and then a couple years later we got together.
So were you dating when the show went on, or were you just and then when it didn't when it got canceled, did you guys decide to keep dating? How did that work? And it must be weird when you're in a new relationship to be working with that person, because yes, you want to spend time with them, but then you're working and it's a different environment. It's like, he's got to be in character, I got to be in character. We don't really want the crew to know. I mean, just how did that work when you started dating on that set?
Yeah, David Kelly didn't like it very much. I don't think anybody really likes it when your stars start to, date each other, because there could be drama around it. I think we only did about 10 episodes. The show really wasn't my favorite show. It was not. It was supposed to be a comedy. At least that's how they sold it to me. And again, I just came off of Cupid, so I was, I don't know. It was hot then, and I knew what I wanted to do, and I knew it made me happy. And the show just quickly turned into kind of like not a great drama. And some shit went down, and no one was really that happy on that set. And I actually quit. I quit after episode 8. I was making more money than I ever had in my life, and everyone thought I was crazy. And I go, but it's not good. It doesn't make me happy. And it was canceled 2 weeks after I quit, so I knew it was the right thing to do. But no, working with Danny, it's a new relationship. It's fun and flirty, and he'd go to work and then would hook up after work. It was fun. It was great. It was sexy. It was, that's kind of cool. It's how a lot of people meet, because you're on the set so many hours, and you spend all this kind of weird artificial time with each other. So I guess it just made it happen a little quicker, because we did spend so much time with each other. Nowadays, I'm not sure I want to work with my husband nowadays, and 14 hours a day. Enough's enough. But, in the beginning, it's so good. So we had no problem.
Now, what did your agents say when you quit? Because the bottom line is, we can all love our agents, but they're about the money, and you're making all this money, and I'm guessing all these roles you didn't audition for because people were offering them. How do you sit there and tell your agent, oh, by the way, I'm going to quit this show, even though you probably had the right intuition that it was going to get canceled, but how does your agent react when you sit there and go, okay, you're losing 10% of this? Hey, people, welcome back to Cooper Talk. Paula had a family emergency yesterday, but everything was good. Everything's good, so it worked out.
Fine.
So, Paula, welcome back.
Thank you.
And so we were talking, people, yesterday we were talking about how your agent reacted when you quit Snoops, because you said you're making a lot of money and agents are all about money. How did they react when you did that? I
think they understood that the show was not like a huge hit right off the bat. So I kind of feel like they had my back. They understood I was somewhat hot at the time. So they weren't, at least I don't think they were too worried about me booking again. But to be on the air is a huge accomplishment. I mean, they maybe, I don't know, back in the day they would do like maybe 100 pilots and 20 get picked up. It's tough to get on the air. So I think they understood. They might have hung up the phone and was like, Jesus Christ, what is she thinking? That's like a lot of money she's throwing away. But like I said, the show was canceled 3 weeks after I quit, so I felt completely okay, and I think they did too. But it's something I'm not sure I would do again. We just had such a different way of looking at the show, and again, I thought it was going to be a comedy. It was kind of a rough go, and I have nothing but respect for David Kelley and how he runs his show. It's just coming off of Cupid and going into this, it was also, I don't know, it didn't feel right, and I felt like this was not where I was supposed to be, so I quit. I know, it's hard to believe.
Well, no, what's weird thing is, though, so then where do you go from there in your creative mindset? Are you a little bit antsy about scripts you get because you might want the same thing may happen again because you don't want to get stuck in that situation because then if you quit too much then people are going to go, oh my God.
Well, again, I don't think I would ever quit again. Most actors don't. Most actors just act up and are unhappy on the set and they're bitches. I don't want to be like that, which is why I think I quit. It was also David Kelley understood. He's like, all right, well, maybe I can write you out. He didn't seem all that heartbroken, honestly. They replaced me with Jesslyn, I forget her last name. And so she kind of came on, and again, the show was canceled. But I think he understood. And again, David Kelley's a great writer. It's just this show was not so good, and no one was really happy. I think, I don't think I got a bad reputation because of it. I think I have nothing but, if you ask anyone in town, I'm one of the easiest actors to work with, maybe to a fault. I don't complain enough, so people walk all over me. But in that situation, everything told me I shouldn't be there. And then when the show, again, got canceled, it made sense that it wasn't going to last. And it's just tough to be on a set and be on a show you don't believe in. When you're making a ton of money, again, I think actors, it's a funny thing. All we're trying to do is get a job that lasts. And then all we do is complain about the job when we have the job. I don't know, like one person, maybe Julie Bowen loves her job because, you get to work with Ty Burrell every day and you're on a big hit. I've never been on a big hit before, so that must be an amazing feeling. I can't wait to have that happen to me.
And you will. I'm telling you, it's the luck of Cooper Talk. LaMonica Garrett was on my show, and everything blew up. Brian Howe was on my show. Next thing you know, he was on Westworld on Vice Principals. I'm telling you, it's the luck of the Scorpio.
I'm ready. Now, I'm getting in shape.
Okay. Now you worked with Ty Burrell also in Down the Road.
Yeah, Ty it's called Out of Practice. Ty and I did this sitcom with Stockard Channing, Henry Winkler, Chris Gorham, and myself. We played a family of doctors, and it only lasted a season. It was really funny. I had just had a baby, So 3 weeks after I came home from the hospital and a script was on my door. For some reason, I didn't get an email of it. They still delivered me a script. And I think 3 days after I got home from the hospital, I was testing for this part. I got it, and 3 weeks later, I'm shooting the pilot. And then the show got picked up, which kind of freaked me out because I thought, I was going to take a year off and be a mom. But because it was a sitcom, it allowed me, I brought my daughter to work with me every day. I met the nanny on the set, and she strolled around the Paramount lot. It was a pretty amazing situation that I could have my cake and eat it. But it didn't last too long. But Ty and I are still very good friends, and it's funny, when we worked together, Chris Gorham and I we would just sit there and we were amazed at this guy's talent, and we knew he was going to be huge one day. It just wasn't on our show, sadly, because I would have loved to have been working with him every day.
Now, is there any other actors you felt that way about, that you just watched and said, man, this person's going to blow up androgynously? But
yeah.
Is there anyone you've... is there anyone
I knew Jeremy Piven. I mean, again, when Cupid didn't last, he was so good on it. I mean, we used to have so much fun ad-libbing, which is something I was not necessarily used to. Jeremy, coming from Chicago, and I believe did a lot of improv, and he's just so quick. He's so quick and smart and funny. I learned so much from him. I knew for sure, just because this show didn't go, that he was going to go on for, and make great things. And he did. I'm trying to think anybody else that, no, I would just say, Ty, I knew. Comedy. Jason Bateman already was. I knew who he was. Paul Rudd, I was so happy. I didn't know that Paul was going to be as big as he is. I wasn't sure, but a few people. And then you think you work with some people, and they're great, and they just never hit on that big show. And we just like me, we just keep trying. We're just working actors. We just keep plugging away.
Well, what's the thing amazing about your body of work is, you have consistently worked. But it's also, and I notice this with people who have a lot of talent and are respected, the level of people you've worked with. So that says a lot for you. I mean, I always sit there, it's like, if a baseball player stinks and he goes up to the pros, he stinks more. But you've come up, I mean, you worked on Nip Tuck, which, that was just a crazy show.
It's so crazy. When I auditioned for that, I remember reading the script and then going in, and I think probably I had like three scenes, and most of them were crying. And I read, and then I got a call from my agent saying they want to meet you. It was also like 10 people in the room, including the creator, whose name completely escapes me. The guy that does American Horror Story.
Ryan Murphy.
There you go. So he's in the room. I go back, like 10 writers in the room, plus him, and I go back in, and they said, we really like you, we want you to do this, but we need to talk to you about something. I'm like, okay. And they go, well, this girl, she has an eating disorder, and we're thinking we're going to have her, have an accident in the jacuzzi. I'm like, I'm sorry, what? She goes, well, this is what happens. He explains this whole thing to me, and I go, oh, no, I can't do this. I'm way too vain. There's no way. So I called my agents, and I'm like, look, I would love a recurring on this role. I think it's a great show, but there's no way. I want to be pretty. So there you go. And my agents laughed, and they're like, oh, come on, Paula, you got to, go from a comedy, and they wanted me to challenge myself and do something completely different. So it took me 24 hours to agree to do it because, again, I am vain, and it's really hard to put yourself out there and not looking so pretty and glamorous. But I did it, damn it. So, you do what you do just because. And I'm really proud of the work I did on that show.
So also, then you also ended up on Californication, which I love that show, and I loved Hacking. What was that like shooting? And because Duchovny's character is so over the top, but what I've seen in interviews, I've heard Duchovny is just like a hysterical guy.
Can I tell you, I did not know, David. I auditioned for the role, and I remember the Scott Weinert, who directed that episode of Californication. I guess it was like the first episode back after the pilot or something, because I remember watching the pilot and thinking, oh my God, this is one of the greatest shows I've ever seen, and to end with, like, you know, Sympathy for the Devil, I think it was. I was just blown away visually and the music, soundtrack, and everything for this TV show. So I meet David. After I get the part, I knock on his trailer, his huge movie star trailer, and I said, hey, we have a mutual friend. My very good friend Gigi is married to David's old friend from school back in New York named Matt Warshaw. And so I said, you know, we have this mutual friend, and it's a nice way to break the ice. And by the way, I think that was the first day on the set, and we were naked. That always seems to happen. You have the sex scenes right at the top. So you're like, hi, nice to meet you, and count down, take your clothes off. David is so smart, something I didn't know, and so funny and quick and subtle. He has a little bit of what Jason Bateman has, that very kind of dry, witty humor. It's really, it's fun to be around. He also had such a command of the set. You know, you go on these sets, and the lead of the show, the first guy on the call sheet, or first girl on the call sheet, really sets the tone for the whole show and how people are treated, and how that working atmosphere is going to, you know, how it's going to all end up at the end of the day. You know, can you be open? Can you ask questions? Can you have fun on the set? Is it more, you know, controlled by the writer? And David made it so easy to work with. When we were doing the scene where, maybe if you saw the show, you saw we were having sex, and then everyone walks in on us, and we were high and drunk, and he throws up on this painting after he falls off of me because we were having sex. It's a whole long story, but he throws up, and so off camera, while we're waiting to finish the scene, I say to him, oh my God, that's so gross, because TV vomit is still very gross, even though it's like mushroom soup or something. I said, that's making me sick, like even looking at it. And he goes, you know, it would be funny. What if you threw up after I threw up? And I'm like, oh my God, a sympathy puke. That's fantastic. And so I kind of raised my hand like I was in second grade. Like, Scott, do you think I could throw up after seeing it? And they go, oh, I don't think so. The writer's like, I don't think anyone's going to want to see you throw up. And I go, let me just do one take. Just one take and see if it works. So they literally gave me one take. It was hysterical, and I ad-libbed something at the end where I said, we were just so high, I don't know what happened, and David started laughing, and he went over to the writer, and he goes, would you please give Paula the button, which everybody knows is kind of the joke. The last joke of the scene was David's, but he gave it to me. He gave the joke of the scene to the guest star. That's the kind of guy he is.
See, that's awesome. And he just seems that way. Whenever I see him in interviews, you know, he's just always so funny. And even when he used to show up in the Larry Sanders Show, he was just so like
great.
Different. Yeah, it's great. Well, so you're working with funny guys, and then you get Gary to married, and you know, Jay Mohr. A lot of people know Jay Mohr was like on the Foxworthy show when he was like 16. Like, Jay's been doing stand up forever.
He has. He really has. Yeah, we Jay and I. He used to give me so much grief about being a Cowboy fan. I was like, yes, I know, Jay. I know you don't like Tony Romo. Like, let it go. And my Cowboys had been really struggling for so many years, so it was not fun to get my nose rubbed into it, you know, during football season with Jay around. He gave me so much grief.
What was that like? That was a good show. That ran for a few years. Were you happy to have now you're in a sitcom, and did you think it would last a few years?
Yes, I really thought, Steve, I thought this was going to be the one. I thought this was the show that everyone would go, oh, you were so great in that, and that was one of my favorite shows, and yeah, I really did. It was, the writers were great. It felt right. Jay and I had such good chemistry. We played, you know, divorced parents, and you could see, usually writers, the ex-wife is just a bitch, okay? That's what they write. They made her so relatable, and you could see why these two people were in love once and had a family, but also why they couldn't be together anymore. It was really a sweet show. I thought it was it. So when CBS canceled it, I was so angry. I really still hold it against them. Just like I do ABC and Cupid. I haven't let it go. So, yeah, it's tough. It's tough because you think it was a perfect role. I had great hair. You know, that's important too.
Well, yeah, I'm bald, so I used to have great hair. And so, you know, it's...
Well, as a girl when you have great hair and funny lines and you don't just, you know, lob the joke up for Jay. They gave me jokes. It was great. It was a great experience.
Now, so that ends, and then now you've segued into a lot of drama. Is that just because there aren't the roles for women over 40, or is that because your agents?
You know what? I don't know if that's really the case. I do think writers and stories, you know, who's watching TV? Young people, right? So they're gonna skew TV shows towards the younger audience. I totally get that. It's almost like I'm not old enough to play someone's mom yet, or I'm too old to play the new mom. It's tricky. Again, I've worked. I really can't complain about it. I'm not going to blame anything except timing. And also, it's tough for us TV actors that, you know, all the movie stars are like, hey, man, this is a good gig. You do a TV show. You don't have to go on location sometimes. You know, you're not moving around as much. You're not in, you know, Bulgaria doing a movie for 6 months. That's appealing. So it's tougher for us TV actors to book a lead role when you have, you know, Minnie Drivers doing television now. And, you know, hey, it pisses me off a little bit because I'm like, I can't compete with you. I think the other day I read for Designated Survivor, and Virginia Madsen got the part I read for. I'm like, okay, well, I think she's won an Oscar, so
right.
I'm sure that was a good choice. I think she's going to be much better than me anyway. So it's tough. It really is tough. And again, I'm being picky because I like to stay in town because I'm a mom and she's more important than, you know, an Emmy or any gig. So, but it's true. If I had my way, I would be on a sitcom again and work, you know, 9 to 3 like I did with Jimmy Burrows and have that great day of making people laugh, and you're paid for it. It is truly the greatest thing I've ever done is when I get to perform in front of people, in front of that audience. It makes me happy.
Well, as you're doing the dramas, you also got to pop in on 2.5 Men, how was that like? How was the set?
Oh, that was really fun. I don't think I've even auditioned for the role, and a couple of writer friends who then left Gary, because Gary was canceled, and went to 2.5 Men, they pretty much wrote that role for me. They were like thinking of a woman, or like, who do I buy that could have been a dude before? Who has that dude mentality? They thought of me, of course, because I'm such a football fan, and I think like a man a lot of the time. In my real life, I don't always play the girl card, and so that was a fun little thing that Mark Gross was one of the writers over there, and it was great. It was right down the street from my house, and to be on such a great iconic, you know, show that lasted, boy, what was that, 10 years or something? It was nice. It was a nice little gig I got. But dramas, like you mentioned before, I do like to do both. Dramas are not as fun. I did the SVU, and it was tough. You're like, okay, I got to cry again. Okay, another shot. I got to cry again. Okay, another angle of that shot. I got to cry again. It's really emotional, and it's draining, and I don't fake cry unless, you know, I've been crying all day and I don't have any tears left, and then they blow that stuff in your eyes to make your eyes look watery. It's draining. I did, however, just work on a new show. I'm really excited about it. It's called Doubt. It's going to be on CBS.
I know it.
It's with Katherine Heigl. She plays a lawyer in New York City, and Elliot Gould is her dad, and I play her older sister, who lives out of town. It's a new show. I haven't seen the pilot yet. I believe I was in like episode 7 or something, so I'm hoping it will be picked up. I think it'll be a mid-season show on CBS, and I would love to go back. I did a scene with Elliot Gould. I was like, pinch me. I'm doing a scene with Elliot Gould, playing my father. It was really a highlight of my career.
I know the show because I did a day as a stand-in for the one judge.
No way.
Yeah, I was.
What?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
But yeah, and it was one quick scene, and Katherine Heigl was then I switched to playing a court guy. But yeah, it looks great, and I think Dooley Hill's in that, and he's wonderful.
Yes, he's so great. And I get to watch him tap dance in between scenes.
It's
he's
amazing.
I think most people go check their phones. He tap dances just because he can.
What was it like working on SVU for a show that's been the crew and the cast has been together? I mean, the cast has had changes, but what's it like working on a show where the crew has been so together for so long? It has to be. So they probably have to move pretty quick, right?
They do. It was a well-oiled machine for sure. Wally Langham played my husband. I guess he's never worked on the show either. You kind of come in, you do your scene. I don't even think I met anyone besides the director. The crew, it's like 18 years. The drivers were amazing. I remember I had some great conversations with the drivers and working on a show and being part of something that's lasted so long and had been so respected like it has. Everyone seemed really happy, but really they knew what they were doing, so it was kind of like second nature. Everything just, okay, we do this, we do that. And working with Mariska, who I think the last time I saw her was at my Tupperware party. That's right. I threw a Tupperware party back maybe 20 years ago. And she brought it up because I had forgotten the fact that she was there. So we're reminiscing. I get all emotional. We get all choked up about the fact that we both, were kids when we started and we're still here. And it was pretty amazing. I sent her. Then when I got home after the episode, I went through my photos and I sent her some pictures because she had asked me. She's like, "Was Jennifer Lopez at that Tupperware party?" Because I ran into her and I said, "I think I met you at a Tupperware party." To which Jennifer said, "I don't think so." Clearly, she had forgotten, as I did, that they were both at my Tupperware party at the same time.
There you go.
So I sent Mariska some pictures of us when we were like 20. It was so great. We were so cute and young. It was nice to see.
Well, that's awesome, though. So yeah. Doubts. You don't know when Doubt's going to air yet.
I do not. I think, like any show, they're waiting for a time slot. They're waiting for one of their other shows to tank, and then they'll slide it in, or maybe do a summer release. I'm not really sure, but I'm guessing maybe January they'll start. They find a way to sneak it in there. Also, Katherine is about to have a baby, so it would be great for her to have the baby, take a couple of months off, and then come back and shoot some more episodes, because I think they're only doing 10.
Okay.
So.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad we got to finish this up because we were having a good conversation, and you were great yesterday, and you were great again today. Now.
I appreciate you having some patience.
Hey, you know what? It's what I do. It's figured. Once I found someone could edit it, I stopped freaking out because I do that.
Okay,
I freak.
great.
I'm like, wait a second. What am I going to do? I can't connect to, and I was trying to merge. It's crazy.
No.
So what?
I need a lesson in computers.
I do too, and I do this. Believe me. So do you tweet?
I do, not that much. I mostly am like a political whore, and I comment a lot on football.
And what's your Twitter?
And politics.
What's your Twitter?
Let's see. It's at Paula M. Marshall, because when I signed up, I just did, there was another Paula Marshall, and so I added the M because that's my middle name, even though everyone doesn't even see it, and I never changed it, so.
Okay, cool. Well, people follow her on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter, at Cooper Talk. That's at Cooper Talk. Also go to my website, coopertalk.net. I have, 562 episodes up. I just posted today my good friend Rich Dredman, who drums for Jason Aldean, and he's off for 6 months, so he's excited. Also, go to my other website, stopthesalt.com. When I had my heart problem a few years ago, I wrote that cookbook. It's 120 easy-to-make recipes. No long list of ingredients. If you don't have cumin, don't worry. You don't need cumin. If you don't have, and there's no picture, so you won't get intimidated. So it's easy to make. So what you do is you go to stopthesalt.com and you buy it. Now you can get it at Barnes & Noble or Amazon, but at stopthesalt.com, I make more money, and I will sign it for you. So go there. Go into IMDb. Follow Paula's career. go see her stuff. Go watch her stuff. Go into Netflix. Watch her because she's a great actor. She's been working forever. You'll see her on the Seinfeld episode because it's on like once every 6 months. Also, email me, Cooper@CooperTalk.net. Instagram and Words with Friends, Cooper Talk 1. I'm Steve Cooper. I'm only as hip as my guest. Don't forget, drink your water, eat your vegetables, take your vitamins, and I will talk to you guys next week.